competition last year, though it was virtual, so a little bit different.
Yeah,
but
it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was just me sitting here at my desk watching video after video, but it was very cool what the kids were doing, and so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to one of the gentlemen from the Skills USA corporate office yesterday, and we were kind of trying to figure out how to explain to people what that experience of actually going to nationals. And I would encourage anybody that can get out there to just show up and encourage and kind of see the breadth of everything that goes on at Skills USA. I mean, there's kids working on HVACs, there's kids working on big diesel engines, there's, an outdoor pavilion area with all sorts of stuff going on out there. The Army shows up in a big way, but then you've also got things like kids that are making video games and doing videos and nails and hair and cooking, the whole breadth of things. So what he came up with, the gentleman Darren that I was speaking to, it's like you can see the Grand Canyon in pictures and go, okay, that's pretty cool, that's pretty awesome. But until you actually go to the Grand Canyon, you don't quite get how massive it is. And that's kind of what nationals is like too, to me. So there we go.
I was, in fact, at the Grand Canyon about 3 weeks ago. So yes,
it is pretty amazing, isn't it? It's just, the pictures are fantastic, but to be able to kind of go, oh, this is a big canyon.
Take a step back. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Hold on to the kid a little tighter. Yep, exactly. All right. Well, that's my call for help. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, Aaron@tworegularguys.com. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that support. Right. Terry, it's time for a dad joke.
Am I reading dad joke today?
Yeah, I think you do such a good job delivering these anyway, so we're gonna let you bring this one to us.
All right. Well, we have another Christmas dad joke and another contribution from our friend Lisa Shaw. So you ready?
I am.
All right. Why is Santa afraid to be stuck in the chimney?
I don't know why he's afraid to be stuck in the chimney.
Because he has claustrophobia. Claustrophobia.
Claustrophobia. Yes. All right. Christmas awesome. Jokes. I love it.
Yep. All right, Aaron, before we go any further, we want to thank everyone for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We are always looking for new guests. We've got a lot of slots to fill for 2022. If you'd like to join us or know somebody, go to calendly.com/2, the number 2, Regular Guys, with your show ideas. If you are listening to the podcast version of the show, please share with your friends and so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on any podcast place that you're listening. We're at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts. We are everywhere. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and questions. If you have suggestions for planning for the coming year, we'd love to see you doing that and joining in. So let's move on, Aaron.
Let's do it for sure. Yeah. It's always, you always bring that part and then I'm always giggling in the background about something else, so I apologize again, but we had that joke slayed. All right.
From last week's joke.
Yeah, exactly.
This one's gonna slay you.
Yes, it's gonna slay you. I love it. All right. Well, let's hear. Actually, just watch a quick video here from our success group about what's new in 2022 here for us. All right. Well, check that out. If you want to learn more, just head over to oursuccessgroup.com/sale, and you'll see all the new happenings over there at Our Success Group. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and dive into this planning if you're ready, Terry. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to talk about what we discussed last year?
Let's do that. In fact, if you don't mind, I can go ahead and start us off a little bit, and then
Sure.
we get into that. And yeah, so last year, the first thing that I had on my list was it's always funny to go back on these before I get there, actually, Terry, because you kind of go, oh yeah, I remember where I was at, right? So what I'm sharing is probably coming from my lens at that point.
All
Um,
right.
I was coming off of a crazy couple of years where the holiday season was so wild that I barely had time to jump on to regular guys, and was finally to a point where I didn't have to do that anymore. So
Right.
number one
Right.
for number one for me was to check the work-life balance and then prioritize what's important to you, not let everybody else's priorities be what controls our 2021 at that particular point. So that was my first one, Terry. What was your first one last year?
I talked about purchasing new equipment, products, and supplies in a COVID world. So something that I want to touch on again, but from a different angle.
Nice. I love it. That's awesome. All right. Well, the second thing for me last year was, are you checking the boxes for you? And again, where was I? No, but meaning, do you have this? Again, are you putting yourself first? Are you putting other people first? And when you think about it from that regard, you kind of go, oh, well, shouldn't we put other people first? Well, not necessarily. It's kind of like when if you've ever been on an airline and there's a kid next to you, the flight attendants always tell you to put on your mask first. Well, we need to check the boxes for us. We need to put on our mask first, because if we don't, then we can't actually help other people. We're not living in our greatness zone. We're not doing the things that we need to do for us. So it's not selfish. It's actually better. You're actually being less selfish by putting your mask on first, so to speak. So check those boxes for you. So that was my number two. What about your number two, Terry?
Aaron, looking back at our previous year's notes, the year before this, you weren't even on this show. Eric and I did it because you were so busy.
Yeah. It was the last push before the holiday rush
Right.
was over. Oh man, I
All
don't
right.
miss those
So
days.
my next one was let's start firing customers, that is. So
Nice. Yeah, that was a good one, Terry. I think that people understanding that they need to. Again, it's not like, oh, they're terrible, you're terrible. It's like, this is your business. You have to control it, and you have to do business with the people that are right for you. So
exactly
that
right.
was a great one. Love it. All right. And then my final one last year was discover or refine your why. And kind of tied back into all the other things I was kind of talking about. But why is it that we do this every day? Why is it that we're part of this community? Why is it that we are here? And when you start with that why, from a famous book by a gentleman named Simon Sinek, then everything else is more clear, because people understand, and then the what's start showing up as you move forward towards your why. So really important stuff there, Terry.
Yeah.
How about your last one?
It's kind of funny because mine was what worked and didn't work during the COVID year, as if it was over.
Yeah.
If only I'd realized,
Yeah.
that hey, we have another COVID year ahead of us, and who knows
Yeah.
for the future. But this particular one, Aaron, was more specifically, and I guess I should have worded it like this: during a crisis, what's working, what's not working to make your business survive. So
Yeah. There you go. I like it. That was great. Perfect. A couple quick comments here from the regulators. Barb says, "Good morning, Aaron and Terry. Good morning, everyone." So, Barb, thanks for being here. And then Jorita made it in. Thank you, Jorita. Crystal, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was trying to say. Have to prioritize filling your own cup. Sometimes you can't pour from an empty cup. So there you go. Love it. All right, Terry. Well, shall we dive into 2022?
let's do you. How about if you go first?
Sounds great. I will take that honor. So the very first thing I think that we need to kind of be aware of when we're planning for 2022 here and getting into it, we're coming to that week between Christmas and New Year's. A lot of times people are slowed down then. you have all the excitement of the Christmas holiday for those that celebrate that. And then, some downtime where there's, other than people returning stuff or whatever, there's not a whole lot going on out there. And until you get to the New Year holiday. So the number one thing for me, I think, is that we need to have a process. We need to, honestly, everything in our business should be process related. We have to kind of get it to a process. And I'm not saying that it's got to be like this super regimented all the time, but the more you do something in a process, the better you're going to get at it, and therefore the more efficient you're going to get at it. So planning is, to me, is just the same way. It's having a process. So, just committing to that planning is certainly a great start, but you definitely need to have a little bit more than just saying, okay, I'm going to plan for 2022, because, like, what does planning actually mean? I think it means different things to different people, and that's okay. Everybody's version of planning is totally fine for them, but you have to make sure that you're clearly determining that. That way, the other people around you that are involved in your business, and solopreneur or not, there are other people around you involved in your business one way or another. They have to understand kind of where you're coming from with this stuff. So, and then the other thing about this, Terry, is that we need to make sure that this planning is something that we hold sacred, and that we put it on a calendar. We make sure that it happens. It's not just kind of 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. It's a very focused kind of thing. And that has very focused kind of questions that you ask yourself. Einstein, and I won't get the quote exactly right, but he once said that if he had 60 minutes to solve a problem that was life-threatening to him, that he would spend the first 55 minutes asking questions, because the answer comes from asking the right question. So, what questions you can ask yourself about looking back, and then to be able to look forward. The last two things, actually, sorry, I got a lot here, is that inside of your process, again, when you're kind of defining what planning means for you, you do need to make sure that you're involving other stakeholders. Like I said, even if you're a solopreneur, there are other stakeholders, whether that's a family member, a friend, a sounding board, a accountability partner, that kind of thing. So make sure that they're involved to whatever extent is right, and go from there. And then, kind of to wrap my section up here in this one, Terry, just make it a repeatable process so you can get better at planning every year. For me, every year I kind of answer the same questions, but then tweak them and say, okay, what do we need to do a little bit differently here? And actually, my wife and I get together. Our neighbors make fun of us because we have a date night that we're just looking ahead to 2022, and that's going to be happening. And we spend, we actually get out of the house, we get a babysitter, and we spend a couple, 3 hours, 4 hours, and go to a coffee shop or something like that, and just work through this stuff and talk it all out and figure out where things are going to go. So we have that repeatable process. So that's my ideas. Terry, any follow up on that?
Well, yeah. So having a process isn't like a New Year's resolution. Is that what you're saying to us?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I always like to post on Twitter about January 15th. Okay, here's my New Year's resolution. No more procrastinating.
Exactly.
But Aaron, when you said get out of the house, that is perfect advice for this. That's the takeaway that I would like our listeners to use. When I worked at Jones Mitchell Sportswear in Kansas City, all the managers would go away for an entire weekend, and everybody had an assignment and gave a presentation at some resort or someplace where we went, and it was day-long planning sessions for the coming year. But if we tried to do that in the office, there's no way, because that phone rings, you got to answer it. Somebody knocks on the door, somebody walks through your door, talks about an order. Well, you drop what you're doing. But if you get away and in your personal life and your business life, also by leaving and doing this, it's focusing on that subject, and rather than trying to do it there in your home or in your business. So excellent.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you bringing that side of it up. That's actually something that I learned from my dad when I was a kid, because that's what they did inside their accounting firm. He and the other partners would do a retreat, like you said, go to a resort or something like that. As a kid, I just thought it was a cool vacation, right? We got to
Yeah.
go away, and while they were locked in a hotel room somewhere, we were out doing the fun stuff. So,
Right.
make it make it something fun. Those were accountants, and they like, hey, we can write this off. Let's go somewhere fun.
One of the places we went to, totally an aside, that years later I saw it on Ghost Hunters as a place where they went and did an investigation. I'm like, holy crap, I stayed in that hotel.
Did you see any ghosts?
I didn't see any ghosts.
All right.
All
Real
right.
quick, before you get to yours, Terry, sorry to interrupt. Ramona just had a good comment that I'd like to throw in there. I live by my daily structure. I have a few new elements I need to add and make sure I follow through. The new year is a great time to set this up, a fresh start. So agree with that completely, Ramona. The cycles that we go through, an annual cycle is just pretty common for humans. And so don't fight it and just go with it, right? It's a fresh start. All right, Terry, what about you, sir?
All right. Mine is look at the changes your business went through during the 2021 version of COVID and determine what you want to keep. And this is different than my last year because, as I said, last year was a crisis view. Hey, what's working? How am I going to keep my doors open? This year, I think it's going to be more a reflection about there's a silver lining to all kinds of thinking, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this year, it's take a look at it and say, we went through these changes, and what am I going to take away from it? What good things came of it? And I talked to a lot of people in the industry, and especially, for instance, about trade shows. A lot of people kind of reach out to me and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing, or what are you thinking about for the coming year?" And
Yeah.
I think that there's tons of reevaluating going on right now. And Aaron, you know that lots of people over the years have said, hey, there are too many trade shows. We should all get together and only do these. And there are companies that tried that. I know M&R several years ago said, okay, we're only doing these 5 shows, and they pulled out of all the other ones, but they slowly crept back. But
Yes.
but I think that lots of companies are saying, okay, here's how much business we did in 2021 when there basically weren't any trade shows. And hey, more power to the folks that Irving, the NBM show, and some of the other shows that did happen. But I think that people are sitting back right now and looking at the way they do business, and maybe focusing more on doing online classes and training or things like that. I know Jay Bassell at Equipment Zone announced this week that we have done 100 webinars and video trainings that are on the internet, and I was surprised by it. But I basically this: take a look at the way you were doing business this year. Look at the things that have changed, and maybe refocus how you go about selling, how you go about producing products, how you go about marketing. So
yeah. Yeah, Terry, I always look at that as it kind of in this vein where take a look, like you said, take a look at what was working, and then figure out how you can amplify that, do more of it, or make it amplified, and then take the things that didn't work, and instead of beating yourself up and saying, oh, that was a failure, I blew it, things didn't work out, say, okay, that was valuable feedback. I know that I need to avoid that because of this, and so it's again, amplify what's working, and then avoid or figure out ways to do differently the things that didn't work. And I think you've got a winning formula there.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Hey, Terry, Kristen had a question here, and I thought, based on what you were talking about too, this might be good to put it out there. She says, currently in the process of deciding which industry show to attend this year. Disappointed that DAX Minnesota is not happening. So what are your thoughts on that? Like I said, some people are kind of not going to as many. Now, I personally think that that's our industry. We've got to touch and feel. It is the way that it is. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, I always tell people definitely go to at least one trade show a year, and first the thing to do is find out which one is closest to you, because most companies are going to be at all those events. There are some folks who are regional that only do this one or that one. Where I do my classes, Atlas Screen Supply, they're a regional company, so they do Midwest trade shows.
Mhm.
But go to one that's closest to you. Probably the two national shows are going to be Impressions Expo in Long Beach,
Yep.
which is about 5 weeks away or less.
Wow.
And then of course Printing United. Um, Printing United is a massive show. I always tell people go to that show at least once in your life, because it'll show you the enormity of the industry, and it's an opportunity to take some seminars from folks who don't do seminars at all the shows. There's
Yeah.
some folks who only do events or seminars at Printing United, what used to be the SGIA show. So
Yep.
find out what's closest, and but make sure you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely make sure you go. And I think the other thing there, Terry, that I would add to that is, what are your goals for that show? What's the reason for going? And like Terry said, I think everybody should go to at least one, but you can also kind of get a sense of which show to go to based on what your goals are. Each show's got a little different feel and flair to it. I think the folks over at Graphics Pro have done a great job with their 2-day shows. And they also have some 3-day shows. So it's just a different look and feel of that. And so that can mean different things. If you're going to learn new stuff, then, look at what the education is surrounding it and stuff like that too. So I think there's going to be lots of great opportunities in 2022, fingers crossed, to get back out there. And so
Well,
just,
and Aaron, when you said what are your goals, I think a lot of people just go to be going, and I love that idea. When I used to I would take my production floor supervisors to trade shows, and again, every one of them had an assignment. While you're there, I want you to find out about this, and part of it was, yes, we need that information. Part of it was for them to understand and uh, not assume it's a vacation.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Go there to accomplish something.
Yeah. And one of the things you can go to accomplish is the networking. I think the networking doesn't get enough talk, because our industry trade shows do such a great job at the education, and there's a lot of talk about that. But the networking is also important. I actually learned that outside of our industry too. I was coaching volleyball for a while, and they have an annual convention that's kind of that kind of thing. And they've got lots of educational programs there and stuff like that. And I was talking to some of the coaches that are from the bigger schools that have been doing this for 30, 40 years. And they said, hey, the education's great, but I come to this every year because it's my opportunity to kind of have that networking opportunity. We might see each other in passing as we go throughout the season, but to be able to like sit down with another coach, in our case, sit down with other decorators, and just kind of have that opportunity to learn and grow off from each other is a cool experience too. So, Kristen, if you were kind of looking at the DAX Minnesota show, then, you've got the DAX Chicago show up that way. NBM does a great show up in Indy. So kind of that northern Midwest area up there. I think those are worth looking at for sure. So,
Well, and Aaron, that networking is exactly where two regular guys came from. So
yeah, exactly. And then sitting at the bar. Yeah.
Right.
No, I love it. No, you're exactly right, Terry. All right. A couple more comments here before I get into mine, if that's okay, Terry. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Wendy says, Mike and I each have a business journey book. We have set questions we answer each year. Example, what do you like about the business? We don't look back on our previous answers until we write this year's response. It's been a great way to track our business journey. Oh, that's really cool. I love that. Yeah. Thanks
That's excellent.
for sharing, Wendy. Barb says, one of the things I will keep using is video conferencing with clients. Easy way to converse with clients and show them design samples and stay on track with projects. That's awesome, Barb. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember talking about this when COVID was just first starting to happen, that there's going to be some things that happen that are going to end up being like, gosh, why didn't we do this before? Right. And I think that's one of them. I feel the same way. I despise being on the telephone, but I will jump on a Zoom call with people like that. So I don't know why that is, but it's just maybe I get used to this, Terry. I don't know.
That's really, really interesting because it's something that I had done really for the first time this week. And it was awesome. I felt when I hung up, I felt like that was like meeting somebody at a trade show, and so you've got a face in front of you, and you can see their expression, you can hear the tone of their voice.
Yeah.
So excellent idea.
Yeah, definitely. Rugg says, have a plan, work the plan. Continuing your educational growth should be part of that plan, either online or at shows. Most of this training is free. Take advantage of it. Of course, I'm biased to the Graphics Pro Expo, which Ruggs is a part of. So yes, I understand, but we're not, right? We like all the shows, Terry. So and we do like to do the Graphics Pro
equally,
shows.
Ruggs, equally. We like them all equally.
Yes. all our children. Christine says networking at trade shows is the best. I went to Impressions Expo Fort Worth last year simply to meet people and come away with ideas for my show, connections for Applique Getaway, and some great new relationships. There we go. And then Ramona says, I've loved the idea of Applique Getaway for the networking. And as always, I'm all about ongoing education. So excellent. Yeah, let's see. Oh, Lenny says, I like the idea of the business journey book. You guys are on fire today. I love it. Thank you, regulators. Keith says, networking is key. Have made some of my best friends from them. Really a second family. Awesome. All right. Well, Terry, I got way off track there. Where are we at? Is it my turn here?
It's your turn, man.
I'm going to keep going. All right.
We can't do this as a two-parter.
I know. You're right. Okay. Well, we're good. Hey, we're halfway there, and I think we're just over halfway done, or getting to halfway done. All right. So my next point here, Terry, for planning for 2022 is, what are the metrics you will be using to track your progress? So it's one thing to plan and have a great plan, but if you then don't follow it or track it and figure out if it's actually working or not, then it doesn't really do you a whole lot of good. So planning is all about that, improving the future before it happens. It's our opportunity to create something before we actually create something. We're creating it in our mind. And so we have to track it somehow. So to track it, we go back to what I started with, have a process, but you have to have a tracking system. What I think the saying goes, you manage what you measure, right? Is that, I think that's about right. So have some metrics that you're going to look at, and then, quarterly, monthly, whatever it is for you, at the half year mark, whatever, you go back and say, okay, are we actually, A, is the plan working? B, are we following the plan? And you do that by looking at numbers. So, and then two other points here, Terry, actually. You want to skip what people call vanity metrics, because they feel good, they look good, they're great to share because it makes everybody feel good, but it doesn't actually improve your business in any way, shape, or form. So these would be things like your social media followers. And I'm not picking on you, Terry, I promise. I didn't even think about that until this very second. But it's great that you've got lots of social media followers. And again, I'm not talking to Terry. Same here. We've got plenty of business people on our page, or how many people are in your group and all that other stuff. And that's awesome. And that's a start. But at the end of the day, that's not going to move the needle. You may have a lot of people that just don't engage or interact, and it's not going to really do much for you. So don't track that number as like, this is what I'm focused on. Another one that people like to track that, again, not a terrible thing to track, but if you're basing all of your business on this, you're going to potentially miss some really big road bumps along the way. And that's total sales. So if I wanted to be $100,000 a year company and I was willing to spend $200,000 a year, I guarantee I could do that. In fact, I could do that in about 30 seconds. I could say, Terry, I'm going to give you $200,000. You give me $100,000 of that back as a sale, and now I'm $100,000 business, right? So, if you're looking at total sales, the overhead numbers, the costs could get away from you if that's all you're focused on. And then, lastly, number of customers. I've seen this a lot too. We're like, oh, I've got to get new customers, got to get new customers, got to get new customers. But people aren't tracking the other side of that is, well, how many customers are leaving and going somewhere else? That was a number that was always looked at pretty heavily at Coastal Business. And it always worried the hell out of me because, we always talked about, oh, we got 30 new customers a day. But I knew the reality was that if we weren't doing things right, we were also losing 30 plus customers a day. So, you got to kind of figure out which numbers work for you. I typically like to look at things from a, well, in fact, I kind of have a little equation of the metrics that I like to use. And so to make that metric worth measuring, it should be this kind of formula. I thought it was fun to put it into a formula. So consistent data that you can reproduce. That's the first important part of a metric to track. The second part of the formula is then you multiply that by how many actionable tactics come out of measuring that data. Can I make a change to my business that's going to help? And then if those two things together equal increased customer satisfaction, then you've got a metric that's worth measuring. So that's my thought on that. Terry, what are your thoughts there?
I love it. Let me give you an example of just tracking total sales and a real life example.
Yeah.
I worked with a company once where the sales department said, "Hey, we want to do this promotion next year where this particular product category, we want to discount it way down." And just to maybe get some new customers or add to our sales. Well, our sales were a little bit higher for the year, but at the end of the year, our profitability was way down because what happened was, for instance, if this store that bought from us spent $1,000 with us, well, they spent that $1,000 on the discounted product.
Yeah,
and so we made way less money, and it was like a panic at the end of the year, like, where's our profitability? And you start digging into it going, oh my gosh, they took those same dollars from over here at good profit and moved them over here at crappy profit. So, it's that if you just looked at total sales, which was what happened for a good part of the year. At the end of the year, we were like, oh boy, are we gonna have to lay people off because of the sale?
our total sales went up and we've got to lay people off. I mean,
right.
we've seen that, Terry. We've been involved in that before. So
we have indeed.
Yeah.
Aaron and I go way back in the business world.
Yes, we do. And it wasn't either of our doing, so I promise.
Exactly.
We learned a lot. All right, Terry. Well, what's your next one here?
Well, I want to talk again because I'm kind of a nuts and bolts guy in this conversation every year. And I want to talk about equipment purchases for 2022. And lead times right now, folks, are real and they are not going away. So, and I bring this up mainly because I have people call me up and say, "Hey, I want to get a conveyor dryer before the end of the year," and I'm like, "Ooh, that is not happening." Well, what do you mean? Because conveyor dryers right now, with most, if not all, manufacturers are 10 to 12 to 14 weeks out. So if you're planning on purchasing something, you need to be talking to your suppliers right now. Heat presses are out 6 to 8 weeks. So there's no buying one and getting it by January, the day before January 1st. So if you're looking at 2022 purchases, look out a ways. Plastisol Inc. There are manufacturers, or let me rephrase that. There are distributors who are limiting their sales to people who have already been buying ink from them. They're not taking new customers because of limited supply. Yeah. So it's not like, of course, some manufacturers have always had big windows. There are some automatic press manufacturers that are 6 months out. Wow. So you buy it today and 6 months from now, you're going to get it. So keep that in mind when you're thinking, okay, this summer I'm going to buy a dryer. Well, you better buy it this spring if you want it this summer.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, Terry, is there like a big parking lot full of conveyor dryers and heat presses sitting out there just waiting for a part, like the cars out in the world?
That is exactly it. That's it. If there's 100, if there's 1,000 pieces in a dryer, if there's one part missing, they can't ship it to you. And that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. In fact, Barb said I ordered another heat press and it won't be here until March or April. So it
Yeah.
is real. It's
Well,
confirmed.
you know what we do at Equipment Zone, as an example, if the heat presses we're shipping today, we actually bought about 8 weeks ago,
Yeah,
and today we're buying heat presses for people who buy them from us 2 months from now.
yeah,
So we are having to pre-buy all these heat presses just so that we could provide them to customers. So
yeah, yeah,
so that's what that your suppliers out there are making huge investments because of these issues as well. So if you see prices going up, that sort of thing, that's part of it, is because they're having to spend a lot of money out of pocket months ahead of time
yeah.
before they can ever ship it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that I think probably another thing to for people to be aware of as you're planning for 2022, just along with these equipment purchases, like you just said, prices are going to be going up. And this is across the board, not just in our industry. Like someone told me about this. I did not read it, so I can't take credit for it. I don't know all the details because I didn't really go and look, but something like 20% increase in General Mills products, your cereals and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
these are massive increases. So inflation is going to be happening. There's going to be some big, people are going to be trying to recover. And so we'll see. We'll see how that all all
I,
levels out.
I did hear the press secretary for the president comment the other day. Well, the reason meat prices are higher are because of the meat conglomerates. And I thought, what, really? Meat conglomerates?
Wow. All right. Well, so yeah, I mean, again, we're not trying to scare anybody. We want you guys to know the reality of things out there, and when you're planning, again, like Terry said, if you're going, oh yeah, cool, I'm gonna, get that new
First of all,
new
is there
heat press. Oh, I don't know.
I think we're gone and we're back.
Okay, we're gone and we're back. Okay,
Yeah.
Eric says we're fine. Thank you, Eric, for again keeping the wheels rolling as smoothly as possible with us. That's always a challenge. Um, so Terry, I guess what I was trying to say is we're not trying to like scare people and freak them out and make you go buy a whole bunch of stuff. As you're planning, you got to look at it a little bit differently. I think 2019 and before we got a little bit spoiled in that you need something, you order it and it shows up tomorrow, right? I mean,
Exactly.
everybody dealt with dealing with the shirt shortages and kind of where it's all located. So he used to have, you could go and order something from a place that was one day away from you, and now you look at this inventories and you're going, okay, well, they got a whole bunch, but it's on the other side of the country. So that's so
Well,
hopefully that starts leveling out.
there's one manufacturer that I spoke with who they hadn't raised their prices in 7 years, and within the last 6 months they've had to raise prices 3 times because they just couldn't do business any longer by absorbing rising costs.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And so we all have to make sure that we understand that and that we're communicating with our customers that these things are real and the reality of it. And it's all about educating and getting out in front of them and instead of trying to ask for forgiveness later through some really crappy, email that gets sent out or letter from the president kind of thing, that you need to be actually having conversations with your customers and say, hey, this is reality. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to show you what's going on. How do we work together to, absorb these things together and move forward. So, yeah. So Marion says, I'm raising prices, tired of working for pennies. There you go. Good. I like that. Yeah. If one thing comes out of this whole planning show, Terry, everybody go raise your prices at least 5%. How about
there you go.
that? Done.
Boom,
We
done.
can,
See you next year.
Totally. All right, fine, Terry. We'll do a couple more then. How about that? All right. Well, as Terry gets to the nuts and bolts, I get to the let's get up in the clouds. No, that's why we're so good together here, Terry.
Exactly.
So my next part is that we need to set clear goals that include how much and by when. And so as we're planning, part of that is like, okay, looking forward, what do we want to do? But we need to have a target. We need to have a goal that we're shooting for. But most people end up setting a goal that, I want more sales, or my goal is to add to the number of customers. But really, and maybe you've heard this quote before, that a goal without a plan is just a wish, which is 100% true. But the other part of this is a goal without a due date is actually just a dream. So we have to include how much and by when we're setting our goals for the coming year. And then the other important part of being able to set a goal and make it clear is that it has to be understood by somebody else, by a third party. Not because you always have to have a third party verify it, but because if it's not verifiable by a third party, you and the other people around you might not be able to easily know, are we getting towards our goal or do we need to make changes? So, so for example, if I said to Terry, hey, I'm going to, increase the number of customers, he could kind of go, okay. But if he was then charged with 6 months later coming back and saying, hey, Aaron, did you reach your goal? And without me having to explain a whole bunch, he could go, okay, do you have 30 new customers? It's June 15th or whatever the number is. So we need to make it confirmable by a third party. And then the next step for me is, after setting those goals, to also include an affirmation. Just a way to, we've got to build the confidence that we can do it. If we set a goal and then our subconscious is saying you can't do that, guess what? You're going to be focused on all the reasons why you can't do it, and you won't reach those goals. But if you're focused on, I can do this, then you'll be amazed at how much of a difference that makes in how much you can achieve. So we need to focus on what we want and then act as if we already have it. So, there's actually some very specific ways to go about this. And I've got a white paper actually on the affirmation process. If anybody wants to check it out, you can just go over to oursuccessgroup.com/blocks and download that free white paper and check that out. And then the last part here, Terry, is set something up that I call margins. It's actually comes from a book called The Slight Edge. I've changed the name a little bit, but basically we want to come up with basic actions that you can take, preferably daily, that's going to help you reach your goal. So goal is going to be how much and by when. It's going to have an affirmation, and it's going to have these margins, these things that you can put on a little sheet of paper and have one for each day of the year and go, okay, I've checked off the margin task for today, and it's going to get me closer to my goal. So
I love it.
Yeah. So if I can give you a quick example of this, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not saying I haven't set my goals yet, so I'm just throwing some stuff out there. So don't hold me accountable to this yet, but maybe. So my goal would be have sold 300 or more of the 5 keys of growing and launching training program by June 15th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Central Time. So there's a how much, there's 300, and by when, date June 15th, 2022. I always even put a time in it, because you'd be surprised that what happens at 4 p.m. on June 15th could be what makes or breaks things. So if you put that time limit on it, it really works. And then the next part is the affirmation. And so the affirmation I would put together for this is, I am grateful my abundance mindset has led to over 300 or more growing businesses having invested in the 5 keys of growing and launching training program. And I just say that to myself every day. And so I get that attitude of, yep, we can do this. And then lastly, the margin, the activity that I could do is to make sure that I share the 5 keys program details with at least one person every day. And, if I need to share it with 300 total people, I divide by that, but my hope is that sharing it with one person or many people like this, that, it would expand. So that's kind of the quick example of that, Terry. What are your thoughts on that whole goal setting process?
If it's company goals, make sure you share it with every single person in the company. And if I could take a minute to give you an example of a short-term goal that I had to deal with one time. We came up on our production schedule, and this is when I was running a pretty big production floor. We came up on the schedule, and I can't remember what the reasoning for it was, because I'm a big schedule guy, but we came up to the point where we had about 6 days worth of production to get done in 5. And so I got the entire production floor together and said, here's where we are for this week. And here's where we need to be. And everybody's got to pitch in and help. And what
Yep.
happened with that 6 days of production is I didn't have to do anything more. I'd look out on the production floor, and on breaks, all the supervisors were out there running the presses. The presses didn't stop. And then people started staggering their lunches. They all got together. It's like, okay, we hit this goal. Let's do this. They got it all done in 4 days. And so it was just a matter of saying, hey, here's what we need to accomplish, or here's what we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And people want to participate. Your employees, and not everybody sees their employees this way, but they want to be successful. They want your business to be successful.
Yeah.
And so include them in any of these kinds of goals or any of this kind of planning.
Yeah. And Terry, I think the other thing I'd like to add to that, because I know you, and so I know how this went. I wasn't there for this specific thing, but I know how you operate. And I think the other part that was probably important to that was that it wasn't like, hey, you guys are slacking, we've got to do this. It was, hey, we're going to do this together. It's a teamwork thing. And then the other side of it wasn't like after they took 6 days and made it 4 days that you didn't go, well, why aren't we doing that all the time? Right.
Exactly
this
right.
was,
No way.
You've got to, you can only sustain that for so long. And so working together with them is what creates that opportunity for them to want you to be successful. But if you're constantly, just trying to put the hammer down on them all the time, it's just not going to work.
Well, in a positive work environment, people want to pitch in. A negative work environment, they're like, makes no difference to me. I make the same amount of money whether we do this or not.
Yeah.
And so a positive work environment, let's make a note of that for next year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you did not micromanage your way to success. I
did not. For anybody, any new listeners, that's our joking book that Aaron and I are writing together: How to Micromanage Your Business to Success.
And we have not written it yet because it's not possible.
Exactly.
All right, Terry. Well, last but not least here, you wrap us up. I'm excited.
I have a short one, and it's simple. Follow through with your customers, follow through with your employees, follow through with your personal plans. And this one generated with me, Aaron, from talking to someone just last week who was calling around trying to buy a piece of equipment. And number one, all I could get was an answering machine. Number two, no one ever called me back. And I think we all experience that with like if you own a home, you've experienced this.
Yes.
Someone schedules to come and put in new chandelier, and a week later, after they were supposed to be there, oh, sorry, do you still need that done? And I mean, I've got a ceiling fan that I'm pointing at my ceiling. It's in the garage because a year ago, I had someone who just kept rescheduling, and he never showed up.
Yeah.
So I finally just put it in the garage.
Yeah.
I want to give you money. I didn't even say, but you've got to do it for this price. I just want it up there.
I just want you to freaking put. You're exactly right. I mean, and honestly, that's what kind of separates people that are successful and not successful is, are you doing what you said you're going to do? Even if it's something in passing, I'm not the greatest at that all the time. I'll make commitments and then realize, shoot, I shouldn't have made that commitment. So I'm working on that. But one thing that I've really kind of done is that I've got to make sure that, if I made a commitment on this show, I go back and watch the show and say, okay, what did I commit to? And then if I can't do it, I got to make sure that I apologize for that. And again, you're not going to be able to get to everything, but making sure that that's part of who you are in 2022, I think is really important, Terry. A good example of that is, and this is why I know our future is bright for our industry. So last week after the Reggie's show, Eric and I were on the Half, and there was some discussion about hats and patches and stuff like that. And the young man was at school, so he wasn't listening, but his dad was listening, Jeff Fuller. And we were talking about it. I said, hey, Jeff, ask Adam to reach out to me, email me. So instead of him then calling me, which happens a lot too, I say, hey, can you email me? And then I get a call and I'm like, okay. But I said, hey, have him email me because I would like to buy that hat. I'm not a hat guy, but it was cool and I wanted to have it. Guess what? The next day, I got an email from Adam, 10-year-old Adam, and he said, "Hey, I heard you were interested in the hat. Here's the details. Let me know what questions you have." I said, "The fact that you got back to me right away is doesn't happen all the time. I've had other situations in our industry where I've said, 'Hey, I want that,' and nobody ever calls me back. So I said, 'Yes, send me the invoice.'" Well, that was last Saturday. There's
And
what I
there's your
have
hat.
in my hand right here, this hat. So thank you, Eric.
For our podcast listeners, it's the 2021 Reggie nominated.
Yep,
Not
2021
winner,
Reggie
nominated.
nominated. Yep. So I've got that hat, and it was a great experience. But what made it a great experience is he did what he said he was going to do. You know, his dad made a commitment for him, and we went from there. I asked him to do it. If he didn't reach out, and his dad didn't say that he would, then I probably would have been okay with that. But at the same time, here's somebody that is wanting to give you money, and I paid for it just like any other customer, and away we went. So I did get an extra patch,
yeah.
so that was kind of cool. So
very nice. There's always that little extra bonus. That's what you always remember.
That's right. That's right. So I love it, Terry. That's a great suggestion to close us out here.
All right. So those are our thoughts for 2022, everybody.
Yeah, definitely. All right. One quick comment from Christine here. She says, "Oh, that's awesome. Adam is going to go far in the industry, and kudos to Jeff for teaching him what he needed to do." So yeah, wonderful. Good. All right, Terry. Well, yes, that's 2022 planning. Hopefully you guys are able to take some nuggets out of that. I know I've got some nuggets from Terry there. Thank you for putting it into an outline format that I can take and use. Sorry, another quick comment here from Barb before I get completely off track. Follow up with your customers is very important. You can easily lose a sale, but not following up. I also find that fast follow up increases the ability to upsell other products. Yeah, I agree with that, Barb. And Terry, I think you'll remember this from the ThreadX event in Scottsdale, where Jay Bear had did a presentation for us. And one of the things that he said in there that has always stood out to me, and I borrow this all the time from him, is, speed is a choice. We can choose to respond right away, or we can let the emails stack up and then be overwhelmed by it. I mean, that's our choice. And so you have to have a system to be speedy. I think the stat that he had shared, or that I've read somewhere along the way, that people expect a reply within 10 minutes if you have a messenger app set up. And so how do you do that? That's tough. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Terry, what do you have coming up here into 2022?
I'm starting to fill up the big book of travel 2022. So my complete screen printing business course at Workhorse Products here in Phoenix is February 19th and 20th. That class is starting to fill up, folks. So if you're wanting to come to Phoenix in February, perfect time to come.
You are wanting to come to Phoenix in February.
Exactly. And my class at Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago is March 5th and 6th. I have 3 additional classes at both those locations on my website. So if you're looking for a later date, jump over there and you can find all my upcoming events at terrycombs.com. How about you, Aaron?
Excellent. Wow. Yeah. Check out terrycombs.com. And I didn't know you had those extra dates up. I'll have to go grab those for the show notes. So for me, coming up here in 30 minutes exactly, we've got the half with Eric Campbell and myself. It's a wide open 30 minutes of Q&A. There's no script, no outline, just answering listeners' questions and comments. And we try to get to everybody. But it is the one time in Eric and I's life that we are 30 minutes on the nose, no bonus time. Except for, I think we went a minute over last week. We lost track.
You can only do 29 today then.
Yeah. we took out. There you go. That's a good idea, Eric. So if you want to tune in, you can go to liveosg.com or Facebook. If you'd rather watch on the Facebook side, the Live OSG takes you to the YouTube page, facebook.com, Our Success Group Pro. Either of those places, YouTube or Facebook. You also need to make sure that you're searching for Eric, E-R-I-C-H, Campbell. and subscribe and like and get reminders and all that stuff. So it's on all 4 of those channels. And I think we've even now pushed it over to my LinkedIn page. So if you happen to be on LinkedIn, you might see it there. But that's happening in now 29 minutes. And so that's coming up. Also for me, we've got contracts signed, everything's all set here for some seminars I will be doing at the DAX Kansas City and the DAX Chicagoland shows. As Kristen had mentioned earlier, doesn't look like there's going to be a Minnesota show this year, but those 2 other DAX shows will be going on in their normal time slots, February 25th and 26th for Kansas City, and April 22nd and 23rd for the Chicagoland one, the Tinley Park. So on Friday of both those shows from 12:30 to 3:40 p.m., it's a half-day workshop. I'm going to be teaching content creation for the modern world's front door, your online presence. And this is going to be a half-day workshop. It's going to be chock full of content creation tips. And you'll also leave. We're going to get this hands-on. We'll see how this goes. Could be technical difficulties, but that's part of it. So we're going to learn about that. You're going to leave with your very own recorded version of an elevator pitch that you could post right on your website immediately thereafter.
I love it.
So we want to upgrade people's digital front door to an open concourse amphitheater that everybody wants to come in and join. So
nice.
That's what we're going for. And then on Saturday, I will be teaching 3 pricing strategies to avoid and what to do instead. So we want to strategically look at pricing in a different mindset. And that way we're not only generating more profits, but we're also giving ourselves more protection from mistakes and downturns and creating raving loyal fans in the process. So your pricing strategy can do that for you. And we're going to talk about how to do that. So that's happening at DAX. My big book of Aaron's travels is definitely picking up too, Terry. So it is official. I kind of teased this earlier on, but I'm super, super excited about this. I get to be the MC for the Start Here Academy that's going to be taking place at the Charlotte Graphics Pro Expo on September 16th. So this special Start Here Academy is an extra event. It's kind of a 101 level tutorial and techniques geared towards assisting new businesses and kind of helping established businesses grow and find new profit centers. It's really geared for the makers and the crafters who are interested in turning their hobbies into businesses. So it's the other fun part about this is it's a night school type experience. And there's also going to be food and drink involved. So plenty of networking opportunities too. So even if you're an established business, I think you're going to be able to take something out of this. In fact, I know you're going to be able to take something out of this. I will make sure that I leave you with plenty of tips. And I know the rest of the folks involved in this are going to be bringing lots of value to this event. So I cannot wait for that. Really excited about that. And then last but not least, Terry, as we come to the close of the year here, our success group is having our year-end success sale. And we actually have a special first month price for our membership group that we call OSG Squad. And so for the low price of $1, you can check out what we're doing over at our success group for 1 month. And then it reverts to our normal monthly price. And so if you want to learn more about that, go to oursuccessgroup.com/sales. So that's what I've got coming up. Thank you. And would you share Eric's upcoming stuff for us, please, sir?
I will indeed. Join Eric on his show at 2:30 Mountain Time for the Take Up. Today, it is episode 94. So taking stock and setting goals for your machine embroidery business. All about realistic evaluation of your work and setting goals that stick and stay on track for your purpose. Or with your purpose. Head over to ericcampbell.com, Campbell.com. There it is, Eric. And you can't mute me because I'm reading your stuff. It's the perfect world.
Well played.
Well played, right?
It's science, Gary.
It's science. And so over to ericcampbell.com, click on the Take Up tab at the top of the playlist. Eric will have multiple sessions coming up at the Impressions Expo Long Beach. Go to impressionsexpo.com to get registered for January classes. Let's see, he's doing everything from patches and font creation to embroidery editing and a Q&A panel. And as I said, impressionsexpo.com. And Eric will also have 2 classes at DAX. I have 2 classes at DAX too. One for advanced editing and a longer half-day workshop for beginner digitizing. That sounds awesome. To get up to speed with your first design, head over to daxshow.com.
Awesome. Yeah, we're looking forward to all those shows and everything coming up. And if you're going out to Impressions Expo, just look for that Eric Campbell wing that they'll have in the education area. But, all right, Terry. Well, such a great show. What a great way to close off the year. We have come to the close of another show. So we want to thank all the regulators for participating, sharing their thoughts, and for everything that they've done to support us throughout 2021. We really appreciate you guys. And Terry, great job, sir. High five.
You as well. We also want to high five and thank our show producer, Eric Campbell, for keeping the mics on and the wheels turning during this show and every show over the past years, plural.
Years. Yes, Eric, we really appreciate you, man. Happy holidays and happy New Year's, Eric. So, Terry, this will be our last show of 2021 as we come into the holiday break. So we'll be coming back on January 7th, and it will be Terry and I again doing our annual 10 things we'd like to see for 2022. And it's always fun to also go look back at what we said the previous years and see what happened and what didn't happen. Yeah. And sometimes there's things like, hey, we still want this to happen, so we'll keep it coming.
Or who knew it happened?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. So looking forward to that on the 7th. But until then, if you're someone that celebrates Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays and Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And we are the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.